Okay, so good morning, students.
Good morning, sir.
Okay, so in the last class, we have discussed about the Laplacian operator and the classification of the vector fields. That is, when does a vector is when does a vector is said to be have positive divergence or zero divergence. That means zero non-zero divergence and zero and non-zero curl that we have seen. Okay. So then we have discussed about the Helmholtz theorem. Now there was a numerical that we were discussing, so I will continue with that. Okay, so in the numerical it is told that show that the vector field A is conservative if A possesses one of these two properties. So conservative means it is irrotational, which means that the curl of the vector will be 0. Okay, so one of the two properties means the number A tells that the line integral of the tangential component of A along a path extending from point P to Q is independent of the path. That means any particular vector, suppose it is traveling from one direction to another, it is having a direction like this. Okay, and there is a closed path, okay, like this. So the line integral of the tangential component means this is tangential, this is again tangential, okay, this is tangential like this. So if you take the line integral of the entire tangential of the closed path, that means we are taking the line integral of the closed path with respect to vector. Okay. Now if you take the line integral of the vector, so that means it is from point P to point Q. Suppose this is point P, this one is point P, and this one is point Q. Okay, this is point Q. So the vector is traveling. Okay, so if it is conservative, that is if the vector, one second. Okay, so if the vector is conservative, that is the curl of the vector is 0, that means it can be told that A is equals to minus of the gradient of a scalar. Minus of gradient of a scalar, that means a vector whose curl is 0 is represented as the minus of a gradient of a scalar. So suppose v is a scalar. So we are taking v is a scalar. Now gradient of a scalar, if I represent in Cartesian coordinate system, it will be represented like this. Okay, that is partial derivative of x with respect to v unit vector x plus partial derivative of v with respect to y unit vector y plus partial derivative of v with respect to z unit vector z. Okay, so now this partial derivative is represented like this. That means the gradient of v is represented like this and minus is written in the front. Now we have to find the line integral, because it is told that the line integral of the tangential component of A along a path extending from point P to Q is independent of the path. So it means that the line integral from P to Q will be independent. It means that if you take the line integral from P to Q, the result will be equals to the line integral from Q to P. That means if you travel from P to Q and if you travel from Q to P, it makes no difference. But in actual case, when a vector is rotational, that means it is not conservative. That implies that the vector curl is non-zero. A vector whose curl is non-zero, for that vector it will rotate. So the line integral from P to Q will be unique and line integral from Q to P will also be unique. They will be both distinct. But if it is not rotating, then the line integral will be 0. Because if the curl is 0, that means the closed line integral of the vector will be 0, because it is not rotating. So if you take the vector from point P to Q and Q to P, it won't make any difference. It will be same because it is not rotating. Okay, that we have to see over here. So from P to Q, if you represent in this way, so this is the line integral A dot dl integration from P to Q. Now A is represented as the minus of the gradient of v. Okay, so if I take this and then if I perform the line integral, then what we can do? So in this case, since the line integral we are taking, that is integration. So integration, now we are multiplying this gradient of v with respect to dl, because this is written in step jump. ये step jump करके लिखा है. एक्चुअली ये लाइन कैसा आया मैं दिखाता हूँ. ए जो वेक्टर है ये है, ये ए वेक्टर है, ठीक है. मतलब हमने ए को माइनस ग्रेडियंट ऑफ वी लिखा है. सो दैट मीन्स ए डॉट डी एल इज इक्वल्स टू माइनस ग्रेडियंट ऑफ वी डॉट डी एल. दिस इज ग्रेडियंट ऑफ वी. Okay, this one is gradient of v. I am not writing it over here. Now dot dl means dx unit vector x plus dy unit vector y plus dz unit vector z. Okay, now if you multiply them, that means you find the dot product. If you see the dot product of this particular vector with this vector dl, so dx will be multiplied with dv dx, or you can say del v del x, because they are having the same unit vector. So the resultant will be del v del x dx plus del v del y dy plus del v del z dz, because if you multiply del unit vector x with unit vector y or z, it will be 0. So this is the output. Okay, and minus will be written over here in the beginning, and then integration from P to Q. Okay, now since it is integration and we have different parameters like this, okay, one is having dx, one is dy, one is dz. Okay, so it can be considered to be taken as a unique one, that is suppose ds. Okay, this is a modified differential equation where we represent as ds because we multiply ds both in numerator and denominator. If we do that, then it becomes like this. Okay, it becomes like this. So this is modified as dv by ds into ds, dv by ds into ds. Okay, because this dx and del x, if they are almost equal, they will get cancelled. Okay, they will get cancelled. Okay, because partial derivative, because in this part it is a scalar. So in scalar, if you don't have any, you can say any other component, then almost del x and dx are almost same. Okay, del x and dx is same if the scalar is having only the same component of that particular variable. That means suppose v is having, suppose if you want to write v as x, y, z. Okay, so in that case it is written as del x almost equals to dx. So they are getting cancelled. Okay, so in that case we can write like this, dv by ds into ds. Okay, the ds is getting common, so ultimately it is dv integration of dv. Okay, integration of dv. Now see, integration of dv from minus integration of dv p to q. Okay, minus integration of dv p to q. That means it can be written as pq minus vp minus vq. How? See, if you take the integration of this part, what you can write? Minus of, okay, minus of vq minus vp. Okay, you're writing this, the integration of this. Okay, which is nothing but, since minus is there, so we can write vp minus vq. Okay, vp minus vq. That means we have taken the integration from p to q, but our answer is coming as if the integration is from q to p, isn't it? Our integration is coming from q to p actually, like this. So which tells that if you take the integration from p to q, it will be equals to what the result will be for q to p. Okay, because we are not taking the line integral now, we are taking the simple integral. Okay, that means we have taken this line integral, means not the closed line integral. You can see in this case this circle sign is not shown. Why? Because we want to take the integration from p to q only. So when we take the integration from p to q, okay, we see that the result is equals to q to p. That means for this particular vector, p from p to q is equals to q to p, so it makes no difference. That is why if both are equal, then if you take the closed line integral p to q and q to p, they will cancel each other, it will be 0. Okay, that is why it is written like this. So in the last class we have asked that why the a is written in this form, isn't it? Because it was derived that if the closed line integral of a vector is 0, because if the curl is 0, first of all let me start like this. Wait, the curl is 0. Okay, the curl of a vector, okay, the curl of a vector is 0. See this equation, the curl of a vector is 0. Okay, that means it is irrotational. Now as per Stokes theorem, we are writing this equation just like that. This is Stokes theorem. Okay, so we have written Stokes theorem. Now if this curl of the vector a is 0, so this one will be 0. The LHS left hand side will be 0. So if left hand side is 0, so that means closed line integral of a dot dl is 0. Okay, so if it is 0, that means if you take the closed line integral of a vector, it will be 0. That means that the integration of the vector from a to p to q is equals to the integration from q to p. It means that both are same. That means it is irrotational. That means the curl of a vector is 0, which means that vector is not rotating. If it is not rotating, then both the integrations from p to q will be equals to q to p. And if you take the closed line integral, then if you subtract them, it will be 0. Closed line integral means what? P to q minus q to p. Okay, so if they're equal, then it will be 0. So how it is becoming 0? Because they are equal. And how they are equal? बिकॉज दिस इज द वे वी हैव बैक कैलकुलेटेड इट. सो वी हैव कंक्लूडेड, पहले हमको ये कंक्लूजन आया कि ये क्लोज द इंटीग्रल जीरो होगा. ठीक है, ये तो कंफर्म है क्योंकि कर्ल अगर जीरो है तो स्टोक्स थ्योरम का अगर हम बैठाएंगे इक्वेशन तो क्लोज इंटीग्रल जीरो आएगा. तो क्लोज इंटीग्रल जीरो का आने का मतलब है कि P से Q अगर ट्रेवल करते हैं लाइन इंटीग्रल वेक्टर को, जो वैल्यू निकलेगा वो Q से P भी सेम निकलेगा. इसलिए क्लोज इंटीग्रल जीरो है, क्योंकि उस फर्क नहीं पड़ता है P से Q जा रहा है कि Q से P जा रहा है. ओके, सो दैट इज व्हाट इज जीरो. इसको हम प्रूफ कैसे करें? दैट इज वाई यू हैव टू प्रूव इफ एंड ओनली इफ A इज इक्वल टू माइनस ग्रेडियंट ऑफ B. अब A को माइनस ग्रेडियंट ऑफ V अगर हम लेते हैं तभी ये पॉसिबल होता है, ये डेरिवेशन पॉसिबल है. तो इसका मतलब यही है कि जिसका कर्ल जीरो होता है उस वेक्टर को हम माइनस ग्रेडियंट ऑफ किसी स्केलर के हिसाब से लिख सकते हैं. इफ यू राइट दिस देन ओनली वी कैन प्रूव दैट द कर्ल इज जीरो. Because curl is zero. Why? Because the vector is minus gradient of V. This is the root cause. Got it? Because this is the root cause. So this is the root cause that if A is equals to minus gradient of V, then only it becomes that integration of P to Q is equals to Q to P. Okay. It becomes like this. Okay. So that is why we have written in this way. Did you get this? It's on Maya. Who was asking yesterday that question? It was a good question. Is that person present today? Who was asking? Ayush?
Yes, sir.
Oh, so you have asked the question, no? Why A is equals to minus del V?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is the reason, because if we represent A equals to del V, then only we get the conclusion that the integration of P to Q is equals to Q to P. Integration of P to Q will be what? Q minus P, but we are getting P minus Q. उसका मतलब क्या है कि दोनों का इंटीग्रेशन सेम आएगा, रिजल्ट सेम आएगा. अगर ये सेम आते हैं तभी हम बोल सकते हैं कि क्लोज लाइन इंटीग्रल जीरो आएगा. क्योंकि अगर यहां से यहां ट्रेवल करते हैं, ठीक है, और यहां से यहां ट्रेवल करते हैं सेम आता है, तो मतलब इसका क्लोज लाइन इंटीग्रल सेम आएगा. ओके, इट विल बिकम सेम.
That means it is path independent.
पाथ इंडिपेंडेंट, यस. तो एक्चुअली ये माइनस होगा, एक्चुअली ये माइनस होगा, सॉरी, ये माइनस होगा. सेम है लेकिन ऑपोजिट डायरेक्शन में है. इसलिए हम क्लोज द इंटीग्रल जब लेते हैं ना, इसको P से Q लेते हैं, फिर Q से P लेते हैं, तो दोनों को ऐड करेंगे. तो इसको दोनों को ऐड करेंगे तो क्या आता है? ये दोनों को ऐड करने से PQ प्लस QP ऐड करेंगे दोनों को, क्योंकि एक्चुअली ये माइनस है तो इसके ये जीरो आता है. ठीक है, क्योंकि क्लोज इंटीग्रल को हम जब लिखेंगे तो दोनों को ऐड करना पड़ेगा ना, दोनों को ऐड करना पड़ेगा. P से Q लेंगे, फिर Q से P लेंगे. You have to take P to Q and then Q to P. Okay, so if it is minus, so it will be zero. And if it is becoming zero, that means how it is becoming zero? Because A is a minus gradient of V. अगर इसको बैठाएंगे तभी ये possible है. That means this is a back calculation. Okay, so we have put this value and then we have seen that yes, this is possible. So that is why A is minus gradient of V. So it tells that the integral of line tangential component of A along a path extending from point P to Q is independent of the path. Okay, so now B tells that the line integral of tangential component of A around any closed path is zero. इसका मतलब यही हुआ कि दोनों का क्लोज पाथ जीरो है. तो अगर क्लोज पाथ करेंगे तो if point P and Q coincide then it will be zero. तो इसका मतलब वही है कि अगर हम ये माइनस है, नेगेटिव है एक्चुअली, तो P to Q से अब अगर हम रिजल्ट निकालेंगे और Q से P निकालेंगे तो वो नेगेटिव ऑफ P to Q होता है ना, नेगेटिव ऑफ P to Q होता है. ओ सॉरी, ये नेगेटिव नहीं था, ये पॉजिटिव था. एक मिनट, ये पॉजिटिव है और इसका मतलब है कि ये माइनस P to Q है. So that means if we add them, it will be zero. ठीक है, So this is the concept of the curl 0. Curl of a vector is 0. Okay. So now we can move on with the next topic. Now next we will start the lecture of module number, means the next module, which is electrostatic field. So divergence, gradient, divergence and curl topic is over. So we have learned about the basics of gradient, divergence and curl. That means the basics of the vector calculus. Okay, now in the vector calculus we have seen also the Laplacian operator and the concept of curl 0 and divergence 0. Okay, now we will implement this and slowly we will enter the main course of electromagnetism. So first of all we will study the electrostatics and then electromagnetics. Okay, because we know that electrical energy has magnetic property also, isn't it? So from there we will establish the equations in terms of coordinate system, because you have studied electrostatics in your class, you can say in your higher secondaries, and in the previous semester electrostatics you have studied. You also studied electromagnetism, magnetics you have studied, electromagnetism you have studied, but you have not studied with respect to the coordinate systems. So we will study regarding the coordinate systems, and since coordinate system is there, so it will be represented in vector also. So it is the combination of both vectors and scalars, because in Cartesian, spherical and cylindrical coordinate system we have seen that a vector can be represented in the coordinate system in the form of a point, and a scalar can be represented in the form of a point, and vector can also be represented in the coordinate system. So suppose force is a vector, okay, charge is a scalar, isn't it? So if force is vector, charge is scalar, so if you represent in coordinate system, so they will be represented in a different way. Now if scalar is there, so we will have to may use gradient operation, that is del operation, we will use gradient. If vector is there, we have to use divergence or curl. So that means this introduction of divergence and curl will be there for electromagnetism. So electromagnetism we will study in divergence and curl. Okay, so once you do that, then you can enter the actual electromagnetic wave. So how electromagnetic waves are generated or created? Because electrical energy and magnetic energy, when they come together, we call it electromagnetism. Okay, so electromagnetism can be used for in the form of waves also. Okay, so because all the communication waves that we see, okay, in mobile phones, radios, whatever, in satellites, all in the form of electromagnetic waves, or we call it EM waves. Okay, these waves actually have these vector properties, and they are represented by the equations of divergence and curl. Okay, so slowly we will be entering that course, okay, or topics. Now starting with electrostatics. Now all of you know the concept of electrostatics, it is known to you because Coulomb's law, okay, then the electrostatic field, okay, all of you know the electric field, okay, all of you know more or less. So it is just a revision to that, because these topics are there in your syllabus. I'm just I will give a brief recap, okay, because since you already know this, I will not spend much time. I will just give a brief recap to this. So Coulomb's law, all of you know that when there are two point charges separated by some distance d or r, okay, so they both experience some force which is proportional to the product of the two charges and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them, and k is the constant. This is known to you. Okay, now epsilon naught is the permittivity of this free space, because this k constant we have written over here, k constant is nothing but 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Now pi value, you know, it is 22 by 7 or 3.1416. Okay, and epsilon naught is the permittivity of the free space, that is 8.854 into 10 to the power minus 12 farad per meter, or it is represented like this, 10 to the power minus 9 by 36 pi. Now if you replace these values, the value of this epsilon naught in this part, 4 pi multiplied by this, then the result becomes almost equals to 9 into 10 to the power 9 meter per farad. Okay, if you put this value, okay, then the equation becomes like this. So this is the actual force equation of the electrostatics. Now in terms of vector, if you represent in terms of vector, suppose this is a charge q1 present over here, q2 present over here. Now the force which q1 exerts on q2 will be equals to the force q2 is exerting on q1, but their direction will be opposite. That is why it will be minus. So F12 is equals to minus F21. Okay, F12 means force exerted on 2 by 1. Okay, and F21 is force exerted on 1 by 1 on 2. Okay, so in this way you have to represent. Okay, so vector, so this is the direction, suppose this is the distance, so q1 is over here, q2 is over here, distance is r12. Okay, so this is an r12 and we know force is a vector. So F12, that means q1 is giving one force to q1 is giving a force to q2 in this direction. So this is F12. Okay, so F12, so vector will be in the direction of R12, that means in this direction, Okay, so this is the unit vector, because if force is a vector, so there should be a unit vector. So this is a unit vector, that is in this direction. Okay, now if you represent F21, so F21 will be on the opposite direction. So if it is F21, suppose I am fighting now F21, what will be F21? F21 will be same, q1 q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught r square unit vector r21 in this direction. Same thing in this direction. Now unit vector r12 is equals to minus of unit vector r21. It is equals to minus of r21. Okay, so you agree with this, isn't it? So the force, that is q1 is exerting on q2, that is the vector is traveling in this direction, so it is r12. Now if q1 is experiencing a force on q2, that means q2 is pushing q1. If they are positive charge, they will repel. So if they are positive charge, so due to the effect of q2, q1 will be repelled on this direction, so force will be on this direction, that is it will be in opposite direction. So unit vector r12 is minus of unit vector r21. Okay, the direction is opposite. Now this is understood. Now if I want to represent the actual unit vector in terms of vector, so we know that unit vector is nothing but ratio of vector by magnitude. Okay, that means the unit vector r12 is the vector is equals to the vector by magnitude. Only r is the magnitude. Okay, so what is r? R is the modulus of the vector r12. So r12 is the vector, actual vector, and the magnitude is modulus of r12. Now what is actually r12 then? R12 is a distance r2 minus r1. Why? Because if you see, if this is the origin, because if it is in coordinate system, because it has to be a coordinate system, suppose it is in Cartesian coordinate system like this, q1 is a point, a scalar, q2 is a scalar. Okay, now both are not in the origin. Suppose its coordinates are 2, 3, 4. and its coordinates are, suppose it is 1, okay, 7.5, suppose, okay, different coordinates. So how to calculate R12 then? Because R12 is a vector. We have two scalars. You know the point position of the two scalars and you want to measure the distance between them. But distance is vector. So how can you measure the distance between two scalars? It is possible only if you extend the point of the scalar 1 from origin. You extend this line. If you extend this line, you know this value, and the direction is like this. Direction is like this, suppose. Okay. Then you again extend from the origin to this point Q2. The direction is like this. Now this vector is like this, so that means we know that vector addition, vector A plus vector B gives us vector C. So A plus B gives you C. We know this, okay. So here similarly, if you focus on this, R1 plus R12 equals to R2, means small r1 plus small r12 equals to small r2, isn't it? That means small r1 plus capital R12 equals to small r2, or capital R12 equals to small r2 minus small r1. Got this? Okay, so in terms of actual coordinates, if you want to represent a vector, you have to represent in this way. Because suppose in the equation in the problem there is suppose in the exam there is a problem. Okay, so the value of this vector is given. Then what to do? They have to extend this line. You have to find this particular vector and this vector. Then R2 minus R1 will give you R12, because R1 plus R12 gives you R2. So R12 is nothing but small r2 minus small r1. So this is the vector. Okay. Now this is the modulus, magnitude of the vector, and the unit vector is this. So have you understood this? What? Please respond so that I can also understand that you have understood or not.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it is quite easy because this part you have already studied in your earlier semesters. Okay. Now, so F1 which we have written like this. So this is unit vector. So if I replace this unit vector with this actual vector, then what we can write? This R, you can see R is the modulus. This R is the mod value, and this is the unit vector. Okay, so R is the mod value. So if I replace this, so I can write, if I replace this, so I can write R12 by R. And if R square into R means R cube, so it is R cube. Got it? So Q1 by Q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught R cube into the vector R12. Okay. Now vector R12 is nothing but vector small r2 minus vector small r1. Okay. Now if R is equals to mod of R12, that means R is equals to mod of R2 minus R1, small r2 minus small r1, isn't it? So that is why here R12 is written as small r2 minus small r1, and RQ is written as mod of small r2 minus small r1 cube. Okay. So this is the representation. So different ways you can represent. You can represent in this way, you can represent this way. Okay. Now as shown in the figure 1, the force F21 is on Q1 due to Q2. Okay. Okay, so F21 is nothing but the same force but different unit vector. That means if I represent this way, F12, what is that? F12 means mod of F12 into unit vector R12. What is this mod? This mod is this part. This part. This is the mod. Okay, because F12, if I go by this equation number 4, if I write this equation number 4 once again, if I write this equation number 1 once again over here, so equation number 4 means F12. F12 is equals to Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught R square unit vector R12. Okay, so this is the unit vector. That means this should be the modulus magnitude. So it is equals to R12 mod unit vector R12. This is the modulus value. Okay, so that is written over here. Okay, mod value. Now if I write the force of F21 is equals to mod of F21 unit vector R21. Now since the mod of F12 is equals to Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught R square, so mod of F21 will also be Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught R square. So that means the mod value of both the forces are actually equal, because it will be Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon naught R square. Only direction will change. That is why it is written like this, that F21 is equals to mod of F12. Why? Because these two are equal. These two are equal. So I can write like this, mod of F12, but unit vector will be R21. Okay, and unit vector R21 is also equals to minus unit vector R12. So I can write minus unit vector R12 also. That implies that this 2 is this one, isn't it? Mod of F12 into unit vector R12 is F12. So if it is minus, so it is minus. So the vectors are opposite to each other. So F21 is equals to minus minus F12. F21 is equals to minus F12. Okay, so this is as simple as that. So we know that like charges repel each other, unlike charges attract. This is known to you. Okay, so distance r between the charged bodies Q1 and Q2 must be large compared to their linear dimensions of the body. That is, Q1 and Q2 must be point charges. So the distance, if suppose Q1 and Q2 are separated by a distance of 2 meters, then the Q1 and Q2 diameter, that means the charge is also having some shape. Suppose it is round sphere, so the diameter of the charge should be very less, almost 1000 or 10,000 times less compared to the distance. If distance is 2 meters, so the diameter should be of the charges should be almost 0.2 centimeter or 2 millimeters, something like that. So it should be very like a point, almost like a point. Okay. Now Q1 and Q2 must be static at rest. That means these are the conditions for Coulomb's law. The Coulomb's law satisfies if the charges are a point compared to the distance between them and they are static, and the signs of Q1 Q2 must be taken into account. Okay. Now if there are multiple charges, suppose Q1 and Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5, like this, Q100, multiple charges, then what will happen? Then if I want to know that what amount of force Q1 is experiencing due to all the other 99 charges, Q2, Q3, Q4 up to Q100. So that will be, suppose if I say this way, that there is one charge Q. Okay, there is one charge Q. Okay, and there are other charges like Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, Q5. 5 charges are there. So I want to know what amount of charge Q is experiencing due to Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 and Q5. Suppose the distances are R1, R2, R3 like that. So that will be equals to the force F1. F1 means the force Q is experiencing due to Q1. Okay. Okay. So it will be, say I am writing K. Okay. R1 square. Now F2 is the force experienced by Q due to charge Q2. R2 square. So like that there will be for all. So total force, the total force which Q is experiencing due to charges Q1 will be summation of all the forces. That means Q charge which is there, it will experience some force due to Q1 plus due to Q2 plus due to Q3 plus due to Q4 plus due to Q5. So everyone will be giving some force individually and the total force will be addition to that all. This is called the principle of superposition. Okay. So it is represented like this. If you add them, then it will be like this. So this is F1, this is F2 dot 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 Fn. This equation is same for to any two charges. So we will consider two charges at a time. We cannot consider 3 or 4 charges at a time, more than 2. So we have to consider 2 charges at a time. Okay. It is like a cricket match. So 3 teams cannot play at the same time. There has to be 2 teams in a match. Okay. There cannot be triple threat in cricket. Okay. Or football. Has to be 1:1. 1 versus 1. So India, suppose there is a tournament where India has to play individually with respect to all. So it has to play with team 1, then team 2, then team 3 up to team n. Okay. So this is called superposition. So all the scores are added and then we get the total score. It is like that. So all the forces are added, so we are getting the total force. So we are getting the summation. So K means K is 1 to n. So how many charges are there? That many times you have to add them. Understood? Did you get this point? Superposition principle. Hello, Ayush.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
okay, so I think you have studied this, isn't it? I think this is not new to you. You have already done these things earlier in the semesters, isn't it? ये तुमने पढ़ा है ना पहले?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so let us leave up to this. So I will continue with the electric field intensity. Okay, then other topics in the next class. Okay, so then thank you then students. Okay, wait, let me take the attendance, note the attendance over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so you can leave now. Okay, thank you.